Welcome to the Multifamily Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, host of the Multifamily Zone podcast. I'm here with the co-founder of Jake and Gino, my husband and co-host Gino Barbaro.
See, Julia, the second time is the charm. It's okay.
Oh, it's funny. For all of you listening, I messed up the first intro. I had to do it again.
And you know what it was? It was my fault.
It was Gino's fault because I looked at him and he didn't do anything, but somehow he made me mess up.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I will take all the blame because it doesn't really matter who the blame is, because you know what? You commit, you figure it out, and you continue to do it. And that's why the guests today we have on today, I think they're on an amazing journey. I'm excited. I've already podcasted Ryan already on a couple of our shows, and I said to him, do you want to jump on and do one about family? And he looked at me a little quizzically and going, do they have shows on that? So I'm like, yes. I said, you'd be the perfect candidate. Then I found out that he had 4 kids and he worked with his wife, and that was like the cherry on the top.
That's
so
right.
You want to say anything else, Joe?
Yeah, no, I just think that that's funny that like our intro made me laugh because, you know, just being married sometimes is a challenge in itself. But working together, you know, you have a business partner and that could be challenging, but just to bring it together sometimes, you know, for me, sense of humor is definitely needed. And so I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, I just think, honestly, we're getting in, we haven't even introduced them yet, but not taking yourself too seriously, right? We take ourselves too seriously sometimes and we just forget to laugh, and it's okay to make fun of each other. That's what this podcast, I think, is all about. Anyway, Ryan Smith, he serves as the principal of Elevation Capital, bringing more than 15 years of extensive business experience in marketing, evaluation, property analysis, management systems, due diligence, and finance. Wow. Ryan graduated from the University of Tampa with the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. A highly recruited athlete, Ryan was drafted as a high school senior by the Baltimore Orioles and again in college by the Anaheim Angels, but ultimately made the decision to pursue an entrepreneurial business career with his wife. He lives in Orlando, Florida with his wife, Jamie, and Elevation co-founder, and their 4 children, 7 years, 5 years old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old. Welcome to the show, guys.
Yes, welcome. So happy to have you.
That's probably been the longest intro you guys have ever heard. Sorry, that was painful maybe, but I think it was just necessary, right?
I'll sleep good tonight.
So I've heard Ryan's story. Jamie, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story, your background, how you got into real estate, how you guys met, why real estate? Let's dive into everything, okay?
Okay. I'll give it to you in little chunks, and feel free to ask questions if I don't cover it all the way.
Absolutely.
I guess in terms of how Ryan and I met for the very first time, we met at the baseball field when I was about 5 years old and Ryan was 8. So I have 3 brothers, and we just, our whole family were baseball players, including myself. So I laid eyes on him the first time out there. And then we reconvened and met again later on when I was about 20.
She was kind of saying what she thought when she laid eyes.
Wow. Were you guys living in Florida at the time? Are you from Florida, the both of you?
Yes.
From Orlando.
Wow. So that's awesome. So where did you go to school, Jamie?
I graduated from Edgewater High School, which is a local high school in Orlando, and then I went out to UCF and graduated from there.
Oh, right. So why real estate for you?
Yeah, great question. Growing up, both of my parents had a little bit of a real estate background. So I think in terms of how I got into real estate, I was just brought up a bit on the job site. So for as long as I can remember, my parents, when we were growing up, they would build a house, and we would build it from scratch. So my mom can wire a house completely for electricity. My dad would help help with the foundation, help install the walls, paint everything, the roofing. So as a small child, I could run a wet saw, mix the mud, help lay the tile. And so I was exposed to it just my entire growing up years. But I always remembered thinking, even though we would build the houses and then we would eventually sell them and get into a little bit nicer of a neighborhood, I always remembered thinking we weren't really, and the word would have been scaling. That wasn't the word I was thinking of as a child, but I could understand that it was still quite a grind. We were working very, very hard, and we were making progress, but we weren't getting that far ahead. And I guess I got my personal start when I was in college. I was at UCF, and to pay for my own housing, I worked in property management for a 300 unit apartment complex just off campus.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remembered at the time when I was helping run that property, helping with rent collections or showing the units or taking a maintenance request, something simple. And I just thought, you know, I could do this for myself. I just didn't know how I could get started. And what I decided to do is take out my one and only student loan in college and use it as a down payment to buy my very first piece of property.
Wow, that is awesome. So
So
when you both got married, Ryan, did you go start working together right away, or how did that process look?
Yeah, so when we started dating, when I first met Jamie, I had a software company I had started many years prior. Jamie was working in property management, was entrepreneurial, was considering possibly pursuing a legal career and path of education. And you know, we started, I mean, really right off the bat, you know, we met at the Cheesecake Factory. We reconnected at the Cheesecake Factory at Winter Park and table 93, in case you're looking.
I love details, so thank
Yeah,
you.
that happened at table 93. But anyway, really right off the bat, we were talking about marriage and business and, you know, building something together. I always definitely wanted to do something with my spouse. It's something I wanted to do, and she thankfully wanted to do the same. And so she kind of let go of the dream of a legal career or nightmare, whatever you want to say. But anyway, so anyway, we started right away. So she bought her first property shortly thereafter that she rented out. You know, I had already bought a property before that. So we really, from there, took a lot of the raw ingredients that were present and really, I mean, got busy.
So what did your parents say about you? I know, Ryan, your story, your father was more like a mom and pop, and it sounds like Jamie's parents were more of the mom and pop kind of background where you couldn't scale, right? So when you go to your parents and say, we want to get into real estate, we want to do this together, what was the response from them?
From my parents,
Mhm.
you know, my mom was she was supportive. I don't think she could really grasp the vision of what we were thinking at the time, but I think she was just supportive from a ground level. You know, your mom stands behind you, you can do whatever you set your mind to, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. What was the vision? What did you tell them? Like, what was your vision back then? And if you can answer, what is the vision now? I'm sure it's obviously changed a lot, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, go for it.
I would say that the vision very early on was to be completely self-sufficient through our own real estate portfolio. So
Mm-hmm.
like Ryan said, instead of pursuing a legal career, or, you know, Ryan had a variety of professional options that he could have pursued that would have been quite successful. And I think the vision early on was we could pursue those paths that might have included employment or other types of professional pursuits, but the path was to really be self-sufficient through a real estate portfolio and grow it over time. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think either of us had any idea what it would grow into eventually, but
Mm-hmm.
that was the early on goal, at least in my mind. You might
Yeah, same. Self-sufficiency. Our original goal was 10,000 a month of passive income cash flow. That, you know, that was our original goal. Then we hit it, and then we had a friend of ours who's now a partner of ours. He's, at the time, I think we were in our mid-20s. He was in his probably 60s, and he basically, you know, we thought we were doing something. We were doing, you know, good job, doing well.
Mm-hmm.
He basically said, "Well, it's a fine plan and goal if that's the way you want to live your life." And like, what the heck, you know? Well, come on. So anyway, and it turns out he was right, and so that's really informed kind of the way we are doing things presently.
So once you started working together, what were the challenges with working together as a team? I know you said, Ryan, I need to hire a Jamie, and everyone needs to go out there and find a Jamie. But there are times when I'm sure you're not thinking that at that particular moment. So talk about those frustrations, you know, working with your spouse, because as we had said off camera, sometimes you're talking 24/7 and that's what you're focusing on. And maybe you're not going out to date night, or you're not, you know, you're going out, but you're not focusing on having fun in just the business.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess on the comment on finding a Jamie, it's more than just business and production. I mean, she's incredibly talented and hardworking and capable and intelligent and, organized. I can go on and on and on. But then that comment was more that the total picture, because then, I mean, as wonderful as she is in that regard, we're just getting started when we then talk about what she is when we leave the office.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, anyway. You couldn't hire Jamie.
You better watch what you say, because your price tag just went up. You know what I'm saying, bro? and this is
the office.
And this is recorded. You know what I mean? She's gonna go back and listen to this and go,
Exactly. So that's what I meant by that comment. But yeah, I think you want to answer the other part of that, or?
Yeah, I think, and thank you. I don't want to just jump on to the next thing. That's very kind and generous of you to say. I think to get to the heart of what you're asking, there's certainly, there are definitely growing pains, I think. And something someone gave to us very early on, and I don't know if either of you have ever heard of it, but it's a book called The Power of Two.
Mm-mm.
And it's very good. I would recommend it. And it talks about the complementary nature of a team. And we've all heard, 1 + 1 = 3. But I thought this book did a great job of really describing the differences in our talents. And when we see the world differently, as we should, the temptation can be to kind of even disagree or criticize or become frustrated with someone else's viewpoint, but really thinking about it that way, that we're more complementary rather than adversarial. If that, if that description sort of rings true to you, it's been incredibly helpful to both of us, and especially because Ryan and I do see things different, and we do bring different things to the table, as we should. And a really good friend of us, ours, says it this way. He says, if both of us were the same, then one of us doesn't need to be here.
That's really interesting. It's interesting that you said that, because, even in a marriage, there are some struggles and some, even fears and really difficult times. But most of the time, it's exciting. Most of the time, they're good times, but we always kind of focus on those negatives, And so even working together, I could tell you with my husband and I, there's a lot of times where I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do that, and it's just like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. But but I'm like, you know what, why not, and it's a big process, and it's actually kind of exciting to watch how you grow together, just not in a marriage, but now that you're in a business together, it's like, all right, now we're married, you're kind of focusing on that, but also on the business.
So I want to push over for a second. I love talking business. And to me, having a family is like running a business. I always say that in a lot of the podcasts, because I want to get into the kids and how that has impacted your relationship and even running the business. But if you really think about it, your business should have core values. Your business should have a mission statement, and your family should have one also. And whatever you dedicate your time and you focus your time on is going to grow. So you should be focusing time on family, and you should be focusing time on business. So
yeah, no, that's okay. You can cut me off anytime.
Thank you, baby.
So now I lost my thought.
See what
you do? Twice so far on this podcast.
I am getting blamed for everything today. It's gonna be a long weekend for me.
No,
I'm gonna go fishing. I'm going fishing with the kids tomorrow.
Yeah, right,
So for me, what I like to know is, you have any tips on giving the listeners on ways to work with your spouse? Like, what do you do? Like, I've heard a lot of spouses say, I stay in my own lane. Jamie goes to the office. Right. I do the underwriting. Jamie will call the investors. I'll take care of the maintenance. Do you have any tips for the listeners on how you can work better together?
I think, you two have highlighted it very well, talking about the correlation between a marriage and a business, or a family and a business. And I think we've all heard many times that the key is communication.
Yeah.
And I would say for Ryan and I, and we're always learning and working at it, but I think this style of communication and having an agreed upon methodology for that. Like, I know a question that I've posed to Ryan over the years is, how do you want me to present certain types of information, or when is a good time to do that? So not only do we talk about ways to communicate on certain subjects, we also talk about times. So there's, and for someone coming at it perhaps from a marriage approach, that may not sound as organic and perhaps romantic as they might want on the personal side. But when you're talking about business, which I know you want to talk about, and I love talking about it as well, I think there's a little bit more of a structured approach often that will breed success and also allow for growth and stimulated conversation.
And the good thing about, working together with your spouse is that you do know each other so well. And you've known each other for years, and you will know each other for many more years. And you kind of watch each other grow, and your gifts come out, and you could bring out those gifts, because we could see things in them that they don't even see. And I think that's important, because if it was just any other business partner, maybe they would miss that. So it's important to pay attention to those gifts and bring them out and encourage each other. But what changes sometimes is children. So when you have children, all of a sudden now, maybe mom's a little bit busy, So for both of you, this is a question for both of you, Ryan too. It's like when you had children, what changed? And how did you both handle it?
Yeah. So, I mean, beyond the obvious, in the work environment, me, it's been, how can I, find, because I'll say, Jamie and I work in different ways. I'm good at things she's not, and she's good at things that I'm not. So I guess that's the reference to the separate lanes to a degree. We really don't try to kind of, you go to your end, I go to my end, and kind of, we're coordinated, but here's what I'm good at. And then we support each other in our strengths in that way. But I also know, Jamie, over probably, as we've had more and more kids, we have 4 now, there's just I think a pressure on ladies, to work-life balance. And, Jamie is incredibly talented and productive. And so as I've come to rely upon her to, produce in the way that she has, not by expectation, but just acknowledging what she does. I think part of it is, okay, how do I revise my expectations to give her the freedom to, and then for what it's worth, I mean, I'm talking about, she may come in 30 minutes less in a day or an hour, but, just try to revise my expectations so she has the flexibility to, come in a little later. And then, at the same time, I know, sometimes I'll see her down on the couch in the house later at night at 10 o'clock or 11.
Right.
I'll get an email at 2 in the morning, I was in at 11. So just kind of modifying my expectations and being more flexible to accommodate.
So you guys are both working at a super high level. I mean, I didn't do justice for your bio. So if you guys want to go back and listen to Ryan has a podcast on the CRE podcast that we have. He did a great job there. You've opened and closed 7 funds, correct? You're starting on your 8th fund, right? So you guys are really, really busy, working at a high level. How do you keep it going? I mean, you must get home at night with 4 kids, making dinner. Like, it must be tiring, that challenging. How do you keep it going? Like, what do you say to yourself? Look, I've got to get this thing done.
I would say, to me, that there's a lot of kind of looking forward as we move forward. And the more we do, the more we try to do it on our terms. Because what's exhausting is when the tail's wagging the dog and you're doing things just because you should be doing things. And it's not, it's really ultimately comes down to excellence. And it's not excellence driving the ship. It's habit. It's whatever you want to call inertia, momentum. So one of the things that's been encouraging to us probably over the last couple of years is we know we've done a lot, we've learned a lot, and now we have a better view on how we want to do things. And that's the only thing that interests us, is doing the things that we think are best for real and practical reasons, and then resting in that fact, whether that means more. And that's kind of our thing, is more is not a goal of ours, better is. And better does not always equal more, and oftentimes doesn't. So anyway.
Jamie?
Yes, I completely agree with how Ryan articulated that, and obviously it's grown over the years as the business has grown. And just to answer your question simply, and I guess particularly for your listeners when they're thinking about how do I balance all of these things, the growth of a business, family, all the things that are on our plate. And I say this sometimes, and I think it's okay. So it feels hard because it is hard. And I think sometimes that inner turmoil comes from inaccurate expectations. Because I think sometimes people think, okay, it's all supposed to go up and to the right. Like it's just supposed to get easier and better, easier and better, easier and better. And I don't think that's necessarily the way that it is. Now, the way that Ryan has described it is totally accurate, because you start dismissing some of those improper expectations that you've put on yourself or others have put on yourself. And it is very freeing. So there's a mental capacity that opens up and an emotional capacity that opens up, but in being very transparent, because I think it's important for those that are building, it is hard. I don't want to create that there is some silver bullet. You're thoughtful about it, you're strategic, and but it's hard work.
Yeah, it takes effort. It takes effort to have a business, to have a children, to work with your spouse. It's just effort. And I agree with you completely, Jamie, because a lot of people, might look at us and say, wow, you guys have it so easy. And it's not, because behind the scenes, it's really difficult. There's a lot of crying. There's a lot of yelling, right, at the house. And that's reality. And I always want to tell people that, be like, listen, it's not like, that picture perfect family, like everyone loves each other all the time. It's really a challenge.
And there's a lot of blaming going on,
a lot of
that
blaming.
kind of stuff.
That's
so,
right.
one of the things, one of the observations that I made is, you're probably very similar to my wife. You probably don't complain to a lot of people. So everyone sees you both as having this great relationship, working together in real estate, raising money and doing all this, and that you're not going out and complaining to others. And that's what a lot of people do. They share their complaints. My wife never complained to anybody. She'll tell me how tired she is. She'll tell me that she's having a rough day, which that she should, but she's not going out to others and sharing that with others. And they're like, oh, what a great life. So I'm here to tell everyone who's listening to this, we all have those struggles, right? We all have those cards that are dealt to us. It's how we play those cards is what makes us different. And if we're going to dwell on the victimhood, we can go into, life coaching and all that, and deal with how if we're perceived as being victims, then that's going to really affect us. But the way you both have handled it, take the responsibility and deal with it and just continue to grow. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah. And two, the kids pay attention, right? I know your kids are young. They're 1 through 7. But they are paying attention. They're seeing how the both of you interact and work together and talk to each other, respect each other. They see that. And that's so important, because they grow up with that, and that's how they're going to be. So how do you both, incorporate the kids? And I know they're young, but it doesn't matter. How do you incorporate them into the business and just kind of teach them the little things?
So to me, I mean, growing up, I think we have a similar. So I grew up in a restaurant. My family owned a Vietnamese restaurant, and I was a dishwasher till 12.
That's awesome.
$20 for 12 hours of dishwashing work. So to me, there's the intellectual teaching. I see a lot of parents try to intellectually teach their kids like lofty concepts, but to me, if your shoes aren't dirty, you don't know much. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but to me, it's like
150%.
Yeah,
150%.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, we're incorporating our kids into our business is actually not by incorporating them into our business. It's incorporating them into business, which is each one has different strengths and weaknesses. So there's kind of low-hanging fruit. Like all of our kids have general ledgers, right, and debits and credits. So everything they get goes in the ledger. Everything that comes out of the ledger, and just understanding debits and credits and accounting, and obviously the piggy bank concept, but then actually deducing it to a ledger system, I think is important. But we also have plans to purchase a business locally solely for the purpose of giving our kids the opportunity to work. It'll likely be a community coffee shop here in the next year. I like coffee, yeah, great.
Yes.
But at the end
Sounds
of the day,
good.
yeah, it's great. But just getting the restaurant experience of working long, hard hours for little pay and having the front of house experience and all that entails, I think it teaches I think it teaches more than most could.
Love that.
Work ethic. I have to really quick, a funny story that, my husband and I worked in the restaurant. I worked with him for many years. And as our kids grew up, they didn't really work in the restaurant. They kind of hung out and ate, which whatever. So when we moved to Florida, I said, listen, I just want my son, Michael, who was 16 at the time. I want him to go to a restaurant, work really hard, come home exhausted, and have to go back the next day. I just want that for him, because that's how you learn that work ethic. And, really, like you said, get your shoes dirty, get tired, get filthy, and have to go back the next day. So to me, that's important.
And ultimately, what it is he realizes he doesn't want to do that. So if you don't want to do that, that's great. What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And good things come to those who work. That's the bottom line, right? We really have to instill a hard work ethic. I like to call the Trinity of work is work hard, then let's work smart, and then work with passion. If you can do the first one, you'll end up starting to learn how to work smart. What Jamie had mentioned, the scaling up. Scaling up is working smart, but then working with passion is the third thing. But you can't get to the third one unless you do the first one. You have to work hard, and we can get into the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And that's one of the things that we want to teach our children, is to have that growth mindset, is to have that open mind where, okay, working hard is fine. You're not smart, because if you're smart, you have that fixed mindset, you have nothing left to learn, right? We're not born, and I don't want participation trophies. My daughters last night were joking around. We were watching a show, and she said, Dad, you know what second place is? I said, I don't know. She goes, it's the first. What did she say? She says it's the first place loser. It's the first loser. So I'm like, dude, I just started cracking up. I'm like, you get it, right? It's okay if you don't come in first place. If you want to come in first place, don't diminish that person's work ethic and how hard it is to get there. And participation trophies don't work because you're diminishing that person who worked hard. If you want to get there, we can all get there. We just need to work hard. So I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
At Rand Capital, we're focused on providing the best financing option for each deal and every client. Our personalized service, along with our blue-collar work ethic, will give you the peace of mind to know that we will take the stress out of the financing process so that you can focus on other aspects of your business. For more information and to find out how Rand Capital can help you find the best loan for your deal, visit randcapllc.com to start the conversation.
So now you've got 4 kids at home, no school. How has that impacted you?
We're still in school for one more week, for next week.
One more week.
One more week.
Yes. It is an adventure for sure. We're doing, like Brian said, we've been in remote learning or distance learning with our school for the 4th quarter of the school year. And, that is a unique dance.
You put it so nicely. I love it.
So diplomatic. I'd say, what the heck is going on? I can't take this. It's not unique. This is like a struggle. This is not what I signed up for. But you're an entrepreneur. You commit and figure it out. That's what the thing is. Most of us will curl up in a fetal position and get in the corner, but we can't do that as entrepreneurs, as people who work hard. We just figure it out. And as we start figuring it out and we get muscles and we build that muscle, we're going to get better at it, right?
Totally.
Agreed.
So I didn't mean to cut off the unique part, but I just thought that was really funny. So continue on, please.
Well, and it's funny because people will ask us that don't have small children at home, and they want to know, what is this Zoom education like, or are the kids learning? And I said, well, they're definitely learning something.
That's right.
I'm not sure if it's the academics or it's learning life skills, but maybe I was made more to be a math and PE teacher. I'm not sure.
It's interesting to watch the kids. We do homeschool. We choose to homeschool, I should say. But it is interesting what they learn. Like my daughter, she's 11. She made quiche this morning for breakfast. And awesome. It was interesting because she asked me and I was about to show her, but instead I just gave her a list of what to do. Like I told her the list, I didn't even write it down. And she followed the steps. And I'm like, that is a great skill to follow the directions, because if you're cooking, it doesn't come out right. She did an awesome job. But all that is just life skills that we forget to teach the kids because they're at school, because they're learning and they have books and all that stuff. But that's so important to teach them.
For sure. It's like the John Wooden example. John Wooden's my favorite basketball coach of all time. And you know, for the first, I think it was 2 weeks of basketball season, he would teach his players how to put on their socks and tie their shoes. And so they didn't touch a basketball for the first week.
Yes.
But it's the same thing. It's the fun.
The basics, right? The basics of just, and I'm sure they're used to going out into school. So now they're home together. And that is another skill in itself, is to get along with your siblings at home all the time.
Or to get along with your wife all the time, right?
That's
home.
true.
So
yeah.
that could be.
We're still working on it.
It's not my fault, right? So guys, where do you see yourselves in 5 years? I mean, as far as the business, as far as scaling, as far as the family, you're in Orlando. You're probably going to stay in Orlando because it's awesome. It's beautiful down there. Where do you see yourselves in the next few years?
Yeah, so I think practically speaking, we're about to launch our next fund, our 8th fund. I think as part of our plan, there would probably be 5 years from now, we'll probably be somewhere in our 9th fund at that point in time. Probably, you know, in terms of, you know, units, who knows what that'll relate to, probably 30,000, or probably 30,000 to 40,000 units in total. You know, AUM will be more than it is today, which is great. You know, in terms of location, we'll probably still be here. We also may end up buying a place for some of our team is out on the West Coast, so we're also looking at Newport Beach. So we would maybe move off there, but overall, I think you know, ideally it looks a lot like what we're doing today, but better, but 5 years better. But most importantly, I plan to be sitting right here next to her. That's everything else is chump change.
Wow. And Jamie, for you?
That was just so well put. I'm not sure how to add to it. I think
he did. The cue card right over here.
I think he summed it up beautifully. I think, you know, definitely working at this together, and I think how he summarized the upcoming funds, I would anticipate the same thing. I think Fund 8 will have been launched and then closed. We just recently closed Fund 7, which is the equity raise was $150 million fund. For Fund 7, we expect Fund 8 to be of similar size and probably into the 9th fund within those 5 years. And then at that time too, our children will be in a different phase. So that's always fascinating to think about 5 years in the life of a child, because that is a dramatically different place. So I think about that sometimes too.
I have a lot of experience with that. 5 years. Just have to look back in the last 5 years.
I like that.
A lot of people I know ask you the same question that they ask us is, how do you work with your wife? You know, how do you work with your husband? How, you know, just that separation and all, you know, what message could you share with us to just let everyone know how awesome it can be? I think it's awesome. I see little tiny issues here and there, but for the most part, I absolutely love it. So what can
And for the record, I don't see any issues. So
I have to say that, otherwise people won't believe me. Tell me what message you want to share that just, you know, maybe will encourage someone to say, you know what, maybe I'll give it a try and I'll make the best of it.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan and I will be married 15 years here in a couple of months, and we've really been working together even before we got married. And there, for me, and people ask me this question a lot. So the concept for me is, it's like, Ryan is the greatest guy I know. Mm-hmm. There's no one that I would rather work with or spend more time with than Ryan. Hands down, like, easy decision. And then the reality is, when people say, well, gosh, you know, is that going to be hard or difficult working with my spouse? But I always feel like you're going to work hard anyways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love working hard next to Ryan. Mm-hmm. And a girlfriend of mine from New York City, she always teases, she's like, the fact that you guys are married and you work together, she's like, that's like double time. So you've been married almost 30 years now.
That's awesome. I haven't heard that.
Only a New Yorker would say something that foolish, right? It's like, dude, really? Seriously? And I'm a New Yorker, so I can say that. So
yeah, I would just add more philosophically. I think it's a great it's obviously on the surface, it's great, and it is great. But the challenge, I think, for a lot of people is to have the person who knows you best criticize you. It cuts deep, and not criticizing. She's the person who can best see how I can grow and opportunities for me to improve and get better. But to receive that, it also stings more than just a coworker, right? Yeah. So it pushes the needle more, but at a greater expense. So once you get used to that and you kind of acknowledge that, and learn how to also be agreeably disagreeable, and that whole, it really becomes a 1 + 1 = 3. I actually like it when she tells me things that I can do, because that it'll push, and I don't always, so don't understand.
She knows what you're capable of.
For sure.
As if, if it was just another person working with you, maybe they won't push you, but she knows what you could do. And I think that's the beauty of working together, is that they could bring those gifts out. I love that.
I'm going to try to wrap this thing up and give a summary of this. There's a lot of stuff in this one. First of all, it's always my fault. That's the first thing, right? I'm to blame. It's okay. I can take the blame. I have no ego. As you get older, your ego gets less. So that's good.
I just like making you laugh.
Oh, that's great.
So if I tease you, you laugh.
5 years old, you met Ryan. You have 3 brothers. Baseball. You reconnect when you're 20 years old. Winter Park, table 93. Wow. Cheesecake Factory. Everyone out there, go look at table 93, right? The goal is when you get married, $10,000 a month in passive income. And that seems like a massive goal. And as you get older, your goals start to revise. So that's great. I love the point where you talk about communication and having different ways and having different skill sets and being complementary. Because if you're the same, you really don't need to partner. You're the same person. And it's okay. I think men and women are different. We have different talents, different skill sets, and let's embrace those differences and let's bring them together. And I love the way you say it's agreeably disagreeable. I just call that an argument. And it's okay to have an argument sometimes, because we need to argue and we need to have disagreeing. And it's great to listen to people who disagree with us, because maybe we can learn something. Having an open mind is really important. The Power of Two, that book is great. I think that you recommended. I think we should all check that out. Having the growth mindset is truly important. And you guys have adopted a growth mindset, and you're going to continue to adopt that growth mindset with your kids. I think hard work ethic, working really hard, is such a thing that nowadays nobody talks about. And you can see everyone who's super successful, they've worked really hard in their lives, and it becomes part of their DNA. So when a challenge comes around, you can work hard. You can outwork the next person, because the goal line is there. You got to go over the goal line and continue to work hard. Anything else, Joe?
No, you're amazing.
Oh,
that was amazing.
How can the listeners get a hold of you guys?
Well, I mean, obviously they would want to get a hold of her. So you tell them your number. Her email is jamie@elevationcg.com, and then your direct line.
My direct 407-347-2849.
Guys, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for sharing your story, going through the challenges, going through how great it is working together. And I just want to thank everyone for being part of the Jake and Gino family here. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to them, because they're a great couple and they've built an amazing business. And I'm sure that they're going to continue to build an amazing family. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love hearing other people's stories, especially working together. It's so beautiful. You're a beautiful couple. So keep it up. That's so amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, Gino, the 2 most common questions I've been asked are, how do I get into real estate and do my first deal? The other question, how do I scale my real estate portfolio? Well, gang, we have great news for you. Gino, tell them about it.
We can help you answer both of those questions. At jakeandgino.com, we offer a variety of micro courses to help you along your real estate journey. Our proprietary 3-step framework has helped hundreds of real estate entrepreneurs successfully get started in real estate with no experience, and it has also helped experienced real estate entrepreneurs take it to the next level.
If you want more information, visit www.jakeandgino.com/courses. That's JAKEANDGINO.com/courses, and use coupon code podcast for 20% off your purchase on taking the next step in your multifamily journey.